This is a True Crime in Real Time update from True Crime Today and the Hidden Killers podcast.
Today, we dive headfirst into one of the most disturbing and controversial cases in recent history, the Lucy Letby investigation. Was she the most prolific child killer the UK has ever seen? Or is there something darker beneath the surface? A system so flawed, it let a nurse take the fall for its failings. New evidence has emerged. Another infant allegedly poisoned on Letby's watch, raising fresh questions about the validity of her conviction. If we're standing at the edge of a miscarriage of justice, what else might we uncover? Could management failures, hospital superbugs, or sheer negligence be the real culprits? And what drives a person to such extremes? Is this a case of malicious intent, or something much more complicated? Perhaps a perfect storm of desperation and broken systems. We're not just telling a story today. We're asking the hard questions. When the truth is buried this deep, how do you find it? The Lucy Letby case stands as one of the most shocking and complex legal sagas in the UK's criminal history. Sentenced to life without parole in August 2023, Letby was found guilty of murdering 7 infants and attempting to kill 6 others while working in the neonatal unit at the Countess of Chester Hospital between 2015 and 2016. However, in a recent development, BBC's Panorama has unveiled alarming new evidence, pointing to another baby allegedly poisoned with insulin just hours after Letby took charge of the child's care. This revelation has reignited fierce debates about the reliability of the original investigation and trial. Letby's case hinged on medical findings that suggested deliberate harm. 2 babies had insulin added to their feeding bags, causing fatal or near-fatal complications. But now, evidence suggests a 3rd baby, previously excluded from trial, exhibited similarly suspicious insulin levels. This newborn, admitted to the neonatal unit in late 2015, had normal blood sugar levels when first tested. However, soon after Letby began her shift, those levels plummeted, despite no medical history indicating congenital hyperinsulinism, CHI, a condition where the body naturally produces too much insulin. Blood tests revealed alarming insulin concentrations far beyond normal. Experts consulted by Panorama noted that even in cases of CHI, the specific ratios of insulin to C-peptide, used to distinguish natural from artificial insulin, did not align. These findings suggest that insulin was introduced deliberately, reigniting doubts about whether Letby was wrongfully convicted or if another horrifying crime was overlooked. The new insulin discovery has placed a harsh spotlight on the Countess of Chester Hospital's management. From 2015, consultants raised concerns about the sudden rise in infant deaths coinciding with Letby's shifts. Dr. Stephen Brueski, a lead consultant, had reported these patterns to hospital administrators multiple times. However, management dismissed these concerns, attributing the incidents to chance. Arian Powell, the neonatal unit manager at the time, told the Thirlwall Inquiry that there was no clear evidence to act on. Other managers similarly ignored red flags, brushing off the deaths as tragic coincidences. It wasn't until July 2016, after more deaths and severe collapses, that Letby was removed from frontline nursing. However, even then, she continued in administrative roles, with her managers defending her as a good nurse facing unfounded suspicions. The emergence of the 3rd insulin case has emboldened Letby's new legal team to push for a retrial. At the centre of this effort is David Davis, a Conservative MP, who publicly declared his belief that Letby's conviction may be a miscarriage of justice. Davis argues that hospital mismanagement, or even an undetected superbug outbreak, might better explain the series of infant deaths and collapses. Davis noted that the hospital's poor handling of infections was documented by the Royal College of Paediatrics, hinting at a cover-up or systemic failure that could have shifted blame onto Letby. Davis is not alone in his scepticism. Multiple experts have criticised the prosecution's reliance on statistical evidence and disputed the medical findings surrounding air embolisms, air bubbles injected into the bloodstream to block circulation, which formed a major part of the prosecution's case. The prosecution argued that Letby intentionally injected air into the infants, causing fatal collapses. But critics contend that air embolisms are rare and poorly understood, making the findings inconclusive. Adding to the intrigue are Letby's own writings. During the investigation, police found handwritten notes in which Letby appeared to confess, "I am evil. I did this." Prosecutors used these notes as evidence of guilt. However, Letby's defense later argued that these writings were misinterpreted, claiming that therapists had instructed her to express her overwhelming emotions through writing as a way of managing stress during the investigation. Letby's personal life also became a focal point during the trial. Text messages exchanged between her and a junior doctor suggested an emotional relationship, raising questions about potential bias and conflicts of interest. Managers, including Karen Reese, head of urgent care nursing, became involved, with Reese defending Letby as devastated and unfairly targeted. These close relationships with colleagues, documented in WhatsApp messages, further complicate the narrative. In one message, Reese encouraged Letby, "Hang in there, girl. Your nursing team is fully behind you." Even as Letby serves multiple life sentences, the case is far from closed. The Thirlwall inquiry, currently underway, continues to investigate the events at the Countess of Chester Hospital, with a final report expected in late 2025. Additionally, Letby's legal team is preparing to submit her case to the Criminal Case Review Commission, CCRC, which holds the power to recommend a retrial if it finds that new evidence or procedural errors affected the outcome of the original trial. This latest discovery of another potentially poisoned baby could serve as a pivotal element in any future appeal. The conflicting interpretations of medical evidence, combined with questions about hospital negligence, have created an atmosphere of growing uncertainty. If a retrial is granted, it could set a precedent, not just for Letby's case, but for future investigations involving neonatal deaths. The Lucy Letby case has become more than a criminal investigation. It's a story of institutional breakdown, psychological complexity, and shifting public narratives. With new revelations casting doubt on her guilt, it's essential to explore the context that shaped this case, the environment of the neonatal unit, Letby's background, and the larger patterns of behaviour that may offer deeper insights into what unfolded. At the heart of the story lies the neonatal unit at the Countess of Chester Hospital, which was under severe pressure in the years leading up to the deaths. Reports from hospital staff described chronic understaffing and limited resources, leading to overworked nurses and compromised care. The hospital had been struggling to meet national standards, leaving critical gaps in patient safety protocols. In this high-pressure environment, mistakes, intentional or otherwise, could go unnoticed. The unit's failure to maintain consistent quality control is now under investigation by the Thirlwall inquiry. This backdrop raises the question, was Letby's presence during these tragic incidents a coincidence, or did a broken system make her the perfect scapegoat? Lucy Letby was described by colleagues as quiet, diligent, and professional, but the case against her presented a different narrative, that of a cold and calculating murderer, driven by an insidious need for attention. Some experts have posited that her behaviour aligns with patterns seen in Munchausen syndrome by proxy, a disorder where caregivers harm those in their care to elicit sympathy and praise. However, many who knew Letby reject this characterisation. Several hospital staff members, including Karen Reese, have maintained that Letby showed no signs of malicious behaviour. Instead, they suggest she was caught in a web of circumstantial evidence, amplified by stress, poor hospital management, and miscommunication among staff. Adding to the psychological complexity are Letby's personal notes, which the prosecution framed as confessions. But viewed through another lens, they appear as a manifestation of intense stress. Words written by someone struggling with guilt, whether deserved or not. In these notes, Letby repeatedly berates herself. "I killed them on purpose because I am not good enough to care for them." Experts for the defense argue that these statements reflect emotional turmoil, not an admission of guilt. One of the most damning revelations from the inquiry is how often staff concerns were ignored by hospital administrators. Dr. Stephen Brueski had flagged a troubling pattern. Infants tended to collapse only during Letby's shifts, but rather than taking immediate action, hospital managers dismissed these warnings, fearing reputational damage. The decision to keep Letby on duty, despite mounting concerns, highlights a culture where protecting the institution took precedence over patient safety. It was only after several more infants died that the hospital finally removed Letby from her role, too late for the families already devastated by loss. This raises a crucial question. If management had acted sooner, would lives have been saved? Or were the circumstances beyond anyone's control, with Letby becoming a convenient target when answers couldn't be found? The air embolism theory, the idea that Letby injected air into infants' bloodstreams, was one of the prosecution's most controversial arguments. Yet the science behind this claim has come under fire. Air embolism is rare and poorly understood, with limited academic research on its occurrence in neonatal care. Critics argue that the prosecution leaned too heavily on this theory without sufficient evidence, relying on the emotional weight of the charge rather than scientific certainty. Furthermore, the discovery of high insulin levels in multiple infants raises additional questions. If Letby deliberately poisoned the babies, why was the pattern not detected sooner? And if the hospital was aware of these irregularities, why were procedures not tightened immediately to prevent further harm? Public perception of the case shifted dramatically as the trial unfolded. Initially, Letby was portrayed as a compassionate nurse dedicated to her young patients. But as the evidence mounted, the narrative changed, transforming her into the angel of death in the eyes of the media. The sensational coverage not only influenced public opinion, but also complicated the judicial process. Jurors had to navigate intense media scrutiny and public outrage, which some experts now argue could have impacted their ability to remain impartial. The court's decision to deny counselling services to the jurors in such a traumatic case has also come under criticism, with many left emotionally scarred by the experience. As the inquiry continues, it has become clear that the problems at Countess of Chester Hospital are not isolated. Other hospitals where Letby trained, including Liverpool Women's Hospital, have now come under scrutiny for similarly unexplained incidents. This suggests that the issues may run deeper, raising concerns about the overall state of neonatal care across the UK. In response to the Letby case and others like it, legal reforms are being considered to improve oversight in healthcare settings. Proposals include mandatory reporting of unexplained neonatal deaths and stricter protocols for handling medical negligence claims. At its core, the Lucy Letby case forces society to confront uncomfortable truths about responsibility and justice. Is Letby a remorseless killer, or is she a victim of a deeply flawed system? Could the truth lie somewhere in between, with Letby's actions shaped by stress, emotional instability, and institutional failures? These are the questions the Thirlwall inquiry and Letby's legal team are now grappling with. As the inquiry moves forward, new connections and insights are likely to emerge, challenging preconceived notions and forcing a re-examination of the evidence. What is certain is that the Letby case is not just about one individual, but about the systems, pressures, and decisions that led to these tragic outcomes. So, where does the truth lie? The case of Lucy Letby has all the makings of a modern tragedy: an overworked neonatal unit, systemic negligence, and the devastating loss of innocent lives. But whether this is a story of cold-blooded murder or a catastrophic failure by the healthcare system remains the ultimate question. From the start, Letby's trial was built on shaky ground. Statistical anomalies, inconclusive scientific evidence, and the hospital's attempts to protect its reputation muddied the waters. The air embolism theory, the high insulin levels, each piece of the puzzle leaves just as many questions as it answers. Is this a case of sinister intent, or one where human error and medical chaos created a perfect storm. Then there's Letby herself, a quiet, seemingly devoted nurse whose personal writings swing between self-loathing and desperate cries for help. Are those notes a confession or a reflection of someone mentally crumbling under unimaginable pressure? The duality of her character only deepens the mystery. And what about the managers who brushed off repeated warnings, dismissing them as coincidences? Were they negligent, or were they part of a larger institutional culture that resisted accountability? The fact that new evidence has surfaced, another baby allegedly poisoned with insulin, only amplifies the complexity. If true, how did it escape detection during the trial? And why didn't hospital administrators act sooner when these incidents began to cluster under Letby's care? For every answer, it seems there's a new troubling question. The calls for a retrial grow louder. Politicians, medical professionals, and even Letby's new legal team argue that the original investigation may have overlooked crucial factors. Was there a superbug outbreak that explained the infant deaths? Was the hospital more concerned with covering up its own failures than preventing further tragedies? These questions don't just haunt the families involved, they haunt us all. Justice isn't just about locking someone away, it's about getting the truth. And right now, we are far from certain about what really happened inside that neonatal unit. If Lucy Letby is guilty, then we've witnessed one of the most horrific betrayals of trust imaginable. But if she's innocent, if an innocent woman now sits behind bars for life, then the true culprits are still out there, hiding behind policies, bureaucracy, and systemic flaws. The Thirlwall inquiry will continue to uncover more truths as it delves deeper into the hospital's role in this unfolding nightmare. With findings due in late 2025, we may soon have a clearer picture of whether Letby's conviction was the triumph of justice or its failure. But one thing is certain. The lives lost in this story deserve more than easy answers. They deserve the truth, no matter how uncomfortable it may be. So where do we go from here? Is this the story of a nurse whose dark desires took the lives of the most vulnerable? Or is this the story of a system that let its patients, and its staff, down in the worst way possible? The truth, as always, lies in the details. And until we uncover them all, we remain in the shadows, left to wonder. If you want to stay up to date on this case and others we cover, be sure to subscribe, because the stories that matter don't end when the headlines fade. They're only just beginning.
In a world where the darkest secrets lie just beneath the surface.
They said it was an accident, but the evidence says otherwise.
Where hidden killers roam, unnoticed, in the shadows.
I think you would definitely be looking at a blend of toxic, very bad narcissistic personality traits, and they will be vengeful and possibly resort to violence.
Join Tony Brueski as he uncovers the truth behind the most chilling cases.
They said it was an accident, but the evidence clearly says otherwise.
Each episode, we dig deep into the minds of those who commit the unthinkable.
To your point on narcissism, he thinks in his own mind how witty he is.
Yeah.
But he lost that jury. I was done with him in 2 minutes.
From unsolved mysteries to infamous crimes.
Geez, you've just talked about how you taught yourself how to do everything under the sun. I bet you did a YouTube video, how to best kill somebody with a knife.
Hidden Killers with Tony Brueski takes you where few dare to go.
How does someone with such a dark secret go unnoticed for so long?
With multiple new episodes every single day.
We're not just telling stories, we're seeking justice.
Listen now on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Just search for Hidden Killers with Tony Brueski.